Let's talk about the Las Vegas Raiders because the Raiders have made a lot of moves so far this offseason by moving on from Antonio Pierce, your former head coach, and the same with Tom Telesco, your former general manager. You're bringing in Pete Carroll, your brand new head coach, and John Spytek, the brand new general manager. And you're bringing over a solid offensive mind in Chip Kelly. He's coming back from the college ranks. Now, Chip Kelly as a head coach, completely terrible with the Philadelphia Eagles. That man ran the Philadelphia Eagles like it was a military team, and they got him out of there as soon as possible. But as an offensive coach and as an offensive coordinator, he's going to be one of the best in football. And this is what the Raiders need. They have not had a good offensive coordinator in a very long time. He's a major upgrade over Luke Getsy, who Antonio Pierce brought over last season. He was so good, they fired him at the halfway point of the season. And you have to have an interim offensive coordinator. So going out there and having the continuity with Chip Kelly and with Pete Carroll is definitely going to work out. I also love the fact that they went out there and they traded a third-round pick to bring in Gino Smith. Now, on the surface, you may say Gino Smith is not a franchise quarterback, and you would be correct. Geno Smith is not a top 10 quarterback in the NFL right now, but Geno Smith has played like a top 10 quarterback before underneath Pete Carroll. Let's not forget his first season as a full starter with the Seattle Seahawks. It was very successful. He went out there, he went above 500, and not only just that, they went to the NFL playoffs. He had 30 passing touchdowns to 11 interceptions. 4,282 passing yards, by far the best season of his career. The year after with Pete Carroll, he was still successful. 20 passing touchdowns to 9 interceptions. He is a better option than Jimmy Garoppolo. He's a better option than Aiden O'Connell and also Gardner Minshew. Those have been the starting quarterbacks with the Raiders since they went out there and they released Derek Carr. And that was all on Josh McDaniels. And just wait, I will talk about what he did to this roster in the next couple minutes. But bringing in Geno Smith is a solid veteran option. Now you have flexibility with the 6th overall pick. You can go offensive line. You can go defensive line. You can go cornerback. You can go everywhere else on this team. You don't have to reach up for a quarterback. And a lot of Raider fans, they were pissed off when the Raiders were winning games towards the end of the season. Because a lot of Raider fans, they wanted to tank for Shedeur Sanders. And I said this at the time. Players, they don't give a damn about a draft pick. They just want to win. They want to go out there and put out good film so they can make more money and they can keep their careers going. And you should not be promoting a tanking culture with any team in any sports league because that could easily backfire. Because at that point in time, you will build a losing culture. And it's hard to get away from that. But having Pete Carroll, to see what he did with the Seattle Seahawks, he helped build those Super Bowl rosters. They went to the Super Bowl not once but twice underneath him, and they won one. They would have possibly won the second Super Bowl if they ran the football with Marshawn Lynch. But we've talked about that so many times before in the past. But Pete Carroll, he is viewed as a team builder. So going out there and getting Geno Smith, a solid option. You don't have to reach on the quarterback. With the 6th pick, you have to trade up to possibly get a quarterback like Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. And Geno Smith can push you into a win-now situation, even though I still feel like the Raiders have a lot to improve on. Because you look at this division, you have the Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, the Denver Broncos with Bo Nix, the Los Angeles Chargers with Justin Herbert. But this is about the Raiders going out there and finding stability within their organization, something they have not had in a very, very long time. Even when they hired Coach Gruden, he was putting the team on the right track. The next thing you know, he gets fired because of emails that leaked through ESPN. Then Rich Bisaccia had to come in from being the special teams coach to being the interim head coach. They did make the NFL playoffs, but they were dealing with so much on and off the field. Your head coach gets fired. Henry Ruggs, he's suspended, and now he's arrested because he killed someone. He was drinking and he was driving. So you have to deal with that. And Derek Carr's trying to keep this entire organization together. Damon Arnett, he did not work out at the cornerback position. He completely lost his mind. He was a bust. But yet you still made the NFL playoffs with Rich Bisaccia. Then Mark Davis goes out there. He says, you know what? We're not going to bring back Rich Bisaccia. I'll do you one better. We'll bring in Josh McDaniels. He comes in. He completely ruins all of the love and all of the support that the Raiders had just a year before from Rich Bisaccia. And they were completely terrible underneath Josh McDaniels because he ran this team like a military team. It was his way or no way. He got rid of Derek Carr. He brings in Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo was completely terrible. Jimmy Garoppolo led the league in interceptions until he got benched and he was dealing with a shoulder injury. Josh Jacobs did not have this superstar season how he had in year number 1 with Josh McDaniels. He took a major step back, and the offensive line did as a whole. You still had Devontae Adams and Trey Tucker and those star players. But you know what just happened last season? You traded Devontae Adams to the New York Jets. He no longer wanted to be a part of the organization. But those are just some of the bad things the Raiders organization has had to deal with within the last 4 to 5 years. So to see them go out there and potentially have a head coaching option with Pete Carroll long term is definitely going to work out. I know that he may be the oldest coach in the NFL right now, but that's okay. He doesn't move around like it. He's going to run up and down that field. He's going to show off that energy every single week. And that's what you hope can translate over to the roster on the field. But you bring in Gino Smith. I know his last season with the Seahawks was not the best, but once again, Pete Carroll was not there. You have a brand new head coach and a terrible offensive coordinator in Ryan Grubb. If you don't pay attention to the Seattle Seahawks, let me just insert this here. If you have concerns about Gino Smith, Ryan Grubb came over from Washington, pass-heavy system. The Seahawks did not play complimentary football this previous season. So Geno Smith is out there throwing the football over 38 times a game for the first quarter of the season. He had 21 passing touchdowns, 15 interceptions, 4,320 passing yards. He was one of the most pressured and one of the most hit quarterbacks in the NFL because their offensive line was beat up on the right side. You put him over here with this offensive line, it is still a problem. You have Colton Miller, very good left tackle, Jackson Powers-Johnson. There's a lot of potential there at the center position, but you need to build the rest of this offensive line. The right tackle position, I look at DJ Glaze. Can he work out at that position? He's still a young player. But I look at the right guard and left guard position. You need to bring in better players up front, especially in this division, because you are going against superstar defensive talent. You look at the Chiefs, they have Chris Jones, George Karlaftis. The Los Angeles Chargers, they have Thule and they have Khalil Mack. They can get after the quarterback. And you look at the pass rushers with the Denver Broncos, Jonathan Cooper. He's a very good player. They can go out there. They can put a lot of pressure on you. Every single team can. Even the Raiders can with Max Crosby. But you have to build the offensive line. So within the first couple of rounds, go physical. Go offensive line. Go defensive line. Protect Geno Smith and play complimentary football. And another thing that I looked at with the Raiders from last season, their run game was non-existent. You had some bad running backs on this roster with Alexander Mattison. And Zamir White is not a true bell cow. He had a solid year when Josh Jacobs' production dipped, but Zamir White is not going to go out there every single week and be that game changer for you. You did bring in Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert is coming off a down year. He only averaged 3.3 yards a carry last year for 278 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. I understand that he was dealing with injuries. He's one of the fastest players in the NFL, but you still need to draft a running back. And I don't think that you should draft a running back in the first round. Getting someone like Ashton Jeanty would be phenomenal, but if you don't have the right offensive line pieces for him, it's only so much that he can do. Get your offensive line priorities straight, and then you can build on the running backs later on in the NFL draft. Those are the negatives with the Raiders right now. The lack of a run game, and the lack of protection up front. But they do have a lot of positive things on the offensive end. I look at Brock Bowers. Last season, he was the best receiving tight end in the NFL. And that's not a hot take. Brock Bowers was phenomenal. 112 receptions, 1,194 receiving yards, 5 receiving touchdowns. He averaged 11 yards a catch. And he did this with bad quarterback play from Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell and bad offensive play calling by Luke Getsy. He was always open, and even when he wasn't open, he was still open. This is a definition of a generational talent at that position. They went best player available, and it worked out for them. I can see him being a superstar for many years with the Las Vegas Raiders. He can be the next Travis Kelce. We've seen Travis Kelce go out there and dominate every single year in his career, even early on with Alex Smith. I think that he has a higher ceiling than Travis Kelce. Brock Bowers is phenomenal. He is the best receiving target that they have right now. And even when Devontae Adams was fully healthy, even early on in his rookie season, we saw Brock Bowers take over games. He was the go-to tight end. And it's going to be hard to stop him in this division moving forward. Now, the wide receivers, they're a bit of an issue. Jacoby Myers, in the past, he has been a number one option with the New England Patriots. I don't think that he's a true number one wide receiver. He's a very good number 2. 87 receptions, 1,027 receiving yards, 4 receiving touchdowns. He's a very good player to keep around. And Trey Tucker, one of the most underutilized players in all of football. 539 receiving yards, 3 receiving touchdowns. He could have easily had over 800 receiving yards if they knew what they were doing, because he can take the top off the defense and he can also be a major decoy. He's a definition of just get the football in his hands with the track speed that he has. Just feed him. But you have Trey Tucker, Jacoby Myers, and you have Brock Bowers. You could possibly move on from Michael Mayer, because let's not forget, when they drafted him a couple of years ago, Michael Mayer had potential to be one of the better tight ends in that draft class. He's not going to be able to do much. He's only 23 years old. He's still young. But you have Brock Bowers and running the 2 tight end set. I don't think that's something that Chip Kelly wants to do. And even if you do run the 2 tight end set, you can still go out there and go cheaper at the tight end spot and get something for Michael Mayer. It may be a team out there that's willing to give up a mid to late round pick to bring him in. But I think that he can flourish elsewhere. It's not because he's a bad player, but he's not even close to being in the same conversation with Brock Bowers. Solid backup tight end, but I do believe that he can go out there and he can be a starting tight end for most teams in the NFL. But I look at the offense with the Raiders right now. They still have a lot of problems, but you have Gino Smith, you have Brock Bowers, you have Trey Tucker and Jacoby Myers. Build that offensive line, build that run game. And that's something that Pete Carroll has done in the past. Look at what he did with Russell Wilson early on in his career. Hell, even with Gino Smith. You had solid running backs. Marshawn Lynch was one of the best running backs in the NFL at that time. You go out there with Geno Smith, you have Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet. They ran the football. Pete Carroll's going to put an emphasis on that. He's a defensive head coach at the end of the day. And the one thing all defensive head coaches love to do is to go out there and run the football and make sure that you take care of the football. And when I look at the defense for the Raiders, their defense has been their saving grace over the last 2 years, which is crazy because when you look at the era with Derek Carr, their defense was always in the bottom in terms of pass rushing, stopping the run, and points scored. But their defense has uplifted over the last 2 years because of Max Crosby, one of the best pass rushers, and you just gave him a contract extension. Max Crosby is phenomenal. Only 7.5 sacks, but he missed a lot of time in the back half of the season, and you brought in Christian Wilkins just a year before. Christian Wilkins, very good player from the Miami Dolphins. He only got to play a couple games this year before he hurt his foot. Very good run stopper, can eat up double teams, get to the quarterback. Malcolm Kuntz, he missed all of last season, dealing with a knee injury that he suffered in the offseason. But the last time that we saw him play, he was a very good pass rusher. So finally, you have pass rushers around Max Crosby. He is still going to get double teamed. He's still going to get chip blocked. But as long as Christian Wilkins and Malcolm Kuntz can go back there and put pressure on the quarterback, it should help out the rest of your team. And I really hope that Malcolm Kuntz can return back to form. I'm worried about this because anytime I see a defensive lineman suffer a knee injury or a foot injury and have to be out for an entire season, usually they don't come back the same. But Malcolm Kuntz is a young player. You gave him a contract extension for a reason. Keep him around. And at his worst, he could be a rotational pass rusher for you. And that's why, once again, I love them going out there and trading for Gino Smith, because with the 6th pick, you could draft a defensive tackle with that pick. You could draft a defensive end with that pick. You can go best player available with that selection in the first round. But I like the upside of Malcolm Kuntz playing alongside Max Crosby once again and having Christian Wilkins. Unfortunately for Tyree Wilson, so far to his career, he hasn't been good. Did have 4.5 sacks last season, 1 forced fumble. They took him in the first round. He was a project coming out of Texas Tech, just this big athletic specimen because of the pass rushing rate that he had at Texas Tech. But at the same time, that's a soft conference in terms of defensive players. They're not known for their defense. He was very good in college, but that doesn't always translate over to the NFL. He is still raw as a pass rusher. He was supposed to be a rotational pass rusher his rookie season. One of those things that the Raiders ran into in terms of just bad luck again. Chandler Jones loses his mind, and I hope that everything is okay with him. But his mental health was not in the right situation, so they went out there and they cut him. They pushed Tyree Wilson to being a starter. Tyree Wilson was not ready for that spot. And he did not look good. The pass rushing rate is not there. It's hard for him to get off of blocks. And he's not an elite run defender either. Most of the time I look at him, he's just out there. And even the sacks that he's getting, he's a cleanup sack guy. He has shown some potential a couple of times through his career. I'm not saying go out there and cut him, but if they had to exercise the fifth-year option today, they would decline the option. And he is still a young football player. Give him some more time. But right now, he is not ready to be that starting defensive lineman on a consistent basis. Hopefully, he can be, because a rotation with Max Crosby, Tyree Wilson, Malcolm Kuntz, and Christian Wilkins, that's a very good pass rushing situation. Hopefully, he does work out because you selected him in the first round. But usually, players like this, it takes a long time to develop. If they don't develop by year 4, that's when it's time to move off of them. We'll see if Pete Carroll and this defensive coaching staff can get the most out of him and if he can play better. Your linebacking spot, you did lose Robert Spillane. Robert Spillane was their best interior linebacker, was a very good player. He's no longer here. And Robert Spillane, phenomenal last season. You are bringing in a Landon Roberts. A Landon Roberts is a solid tackler. He's a rotational linebacker with the Steelers over the last couple of years. We'll see what they can do with him. They should still draft a linebacker. That's why you have all those draft picks that you have in the NFL draft. Your secondary, you bring over Jeremy Chin. Hopefully, Jeremy Chin can fully replace Trayvon Mooring. Trayvon Mooring was a very good safety over the last 3 years. Really, since they drafted him, his rookie season was up and down. But after that rookie season, he took off being one of the best players in their secondary. Jeremy Chin has had some good moments with the Washington Commanders and with the Carolina Panthers. But I don't think that he's a Trayvon Mooring type of safety. But he is very good in his own right. The rest of the secondary, you're going to need some work here. Because you have Jack Jones, you lost Nate Hobbs. He's now with the Green Bay Packers. You need a lot of secondary help on the back end. Because once again, look at the quarterbacks in this division. Look at the wide receiving cores with Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Patrick Mahomes. The Denver Broncos, they have in Cortland Sutton and Bo Nix. The Los Angeles Chargers, Ladd McConkey, Justin Herbert. You have to build this team off of aggression in terms of defensive pressure. You have that. Your linebackers have to be disciplined. They have to be able to tackle. And you have to be very aggressive and quick on the back end. That's going to be the keys for the Raiders to get out this division and hopefully make a playoff run within the next few years. But right now, I don't see them being a playoff contender even after the NFL draft. But I like the moves that they have made. I'm trying to be optimistic here because of all the bad things the Raiders have been through. And when I look at Coach AP, Antonio Pierce, I know a lot of Raider fans, they're not big fans of his. I said this a couple months ago. I'm going to say it again. This was an unpopular opinion at the time. He did get dealt a raw deal because he came in as the interim head coach trying to clean up the mess with Josh McDaniels, and his best starting quarterback was Aiden O'Connell. And then he brought in Gardner Minshew. Now, he did have a lot of flaws to his game. I know why they moved on from him. He could not manage the game at times. He rubbed the players the wrong way. And also this, you hired Luke Getsy. Anytime I see a head coach hire Luke Getsy, you should never be a head coach in the NFL because he's easily one of the worst offensive coordinators in league history. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. He was terrible with the Bears. He was terrible with the Raiders. He should never be an offensive coach in football ever again unless it's a high school or college level. But I like the moves of the Raiders. I really do. It's just a tough division that you're in. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you feel about the Las Vegas Raiders and what should they do in the first round? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, I want each and every last one of you guys to stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless. Peace.